this time, I'd like to introduce Paul Cameron. Known each other, wow, was I the first chap?
Yeah. Yep.
Way back
15 years ago. Yep.
How many years ago? 1-5, not 5-0, 1-5.
I was never towards the 5-0.
Yeah. So, I always like telling the story because it's our favorite networking story. There was this job seeker, and he was in IT, but his wife was a go-getter. Man, she was a go-getter. This is the type of lady who will call the phone company to keep the phone get cut off, telling them, now how stupid are you to cut off my phone? I'm trying to find a job. And if everyone's calling me to do telephone interviews, how am I going to get a job to pay your bill? And then kept her phone on. So anyway, she told Paul about me and told me about Paul. And you know, as two guys are, right? So she's in my office one day. She says, have you called Paul yet? I said, well, you know, I got him on my list here. Okay. Throws me out of the way. Literally, she pushed me out of the way, leaned over, picked up the phone, calls, and says, Paul's here. Talk to him. And that's how we met. Alrighty? Otherwise, you know, we've been helping each other out for 15 years. So it's important you have someone like her in your wheelhouse. That's fantastic, but more often than not, just make the call anyway. Paul has been a source of information for me. I call him one of my barometers about what's happening in the job market. I've always seemed to have the best quarter ever, the holiday season, right?
Right. Yep. Yep.
So I just respect what Paul does, and really, I learned so much from him, and I hope you will too. So let's give Paul a warm up.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. And can you imagine the gumption of that, of being able to just pick up somebody's phone and dial it, and I don't know. That's still an amazing story. But I am a recruiter, headhunter. No, we're not offended by that term. For the IT space. So I place programmers and lots of software engineers and application support people that are in here. Please see me before you leave, because that's what I do, is place those types of folks into jobs. This is not going to be a technical presentation. You don't have to be in technology to understand what we're going to be talking about. Maybe a little. We're going to get into social media a little bit, but not bad. I'm also the founder of SpeedUpMyJobSearch.com, which is like an outplacement resource, but it takes a very aggressive, structured approach to finding a job that's very, very effective. And I also facilitate a job club of my own in Wheaton that meets every third Thursday, where we talk primarily about networking strategies. We meet from 12:10 to 12:50. I would invite you all to come and join us. We try to bring in a great speaker every month, and this month we have succeeded with that because we have Jim Fergal coming to speak with us on connecting the dots for interviewing. So kind of teach us a little bit about storytelling. I don't know if you've noticed, but he's kind of a storyteller. So that's going to be good. But one of the issues with us knowing each other so long is that I do a presentation here every year, and poor Siobhan and Jennifer and Jim have to hear the same presentation over and over again. So I've kind of made it a point the last few years to come up with a new presentation for this event every year. So that's what I've done here today as well. So I've got a brand new presentation together here for you, which is called Behavior-Based Job Searches. And it came from an idea that I've had kicking around in my head for a while of how to kind of present some of the same material but in a different way to present my approach to job search, because it's a very aggressive approach, but it's very effective at the same time. And I start looking at all the things that you have to do in my approach to this, and then the light bulb went on of, okay, there's a bunch of things they have to do. It's behaviors that are in your control to do that will help you land a job faster. And I kind of coined the term of behavior-based job search, and that'll make more sense as we go through this. But it's really, there's a lot more in your control than you think. So, like for example, you can't control the markets or the employers, but you can control your own behaviors, and your own behaviors can influence others. Like if I threw this at somebody, they would either catch it or they would duck, or one way or the other, they're going to do something because of something that I did, if that makes sense. So the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. you know what? You can give them a salt lick and make them thirsty, right? There's stuff that's inside your control. And I put that on the flyer. Hopefully, did everybody get one of those things? I literally, just so you know, I thought of that on the way in this morning. So I wrote that at 7 o'clock this morning. So if you find a typo in there, let me know. If everybody didn't get one, I've got more that just aren't folded yet. It's really that new. But that's kind of where we're going here. And the big hidden secret behind a behavior-based job search is that when you're doing stuff, instead of just sending out applications and hoping someone calls you, the stress of the job search fades away, right? There's so much more that is in your control, and you realize that. It's kind of like a diet, right? The first time you go on a diet, right? I don't know if everybody's gone. I assume everybody's gone on a diet at some point in your life. You know, that first day of the diet, you know, you get up early, you do some exercise, you eat a healthy breakfast, you drink the 25 gallons of water that they recommend you drink every day, and eat healthy through the day, and you get your steps in if you're monitoring that stuff, and get to bed early, and you get up the next day, and it's like, I didn't lose a pound. What happened? You know, you get on the scale, you didn't lose, maybe you gained an ounce. But when you see that, you don't throw your hands up and say, oh, this dieting stuff, this doesn't work at all. These people are crazy who talk about going on diets. You don't lose weight at all. No, you know that you did the right things, and if you keep doing the right things, you're going to see results from it. Same thing with a behavior-based job search, right? You know you're doing the right things, and that eliminates some of the stress from it. And it helps you to build your endurance a little bit. I say build your endurance like a rat. I'm gonna borrow a story from the pastor of my church. I'll give full credit. I go to Christ Church of Oak Brook, and Pastor Myers and Susan's from Christ Church as well. But he had a wonderful story that he shared about a study that was done at Johns Hopkins. I don't know if you were there for this, where they had a study. I forgot the guy's name. It was Rich Kreider. I don't remember what his name was, but regardless, they had gotten a grant to study how long rats could tread water. Right? Why you would study this, I don't know, but they did. They'd put a rat in the water to see how long it could tread water. And the average was somewhere between 8 and 15 minutes. Right? So even the Michael Phelps of the rat world, as Pastor Myers said, could only go 15 minutes treading water before they would give up and go under. So then they did another experiment where they put them in the water again to see how long they could go. And just as the rat was about to go under, he would scoop the rat out and take him over here and dry him off and let him rest, feed him a little bit, help him get his strength back, and then run the experiment again and put him back in the water. And what was interesting was that every single rat that he did that to could tread water for longer than 15 minutes. Right? How long do you think that they could go? An extra 15 minutes? An extra 30 minutes? Maybe go a full hour? The average rat, after they dried him off and got their strength back, averaged 60 hours treading water. Because they had hope, because they had knowledge of an experience that worked. And that's what a behavior-based job search can do as well, because you know that this works. This was worked for hundreds of other people as well. So my goal here today is to show you at least 6 behaviors that you can take on right now that will help you to land a job faster. My challenge to you is going to be to pick one of these behaviors, at least one of these behaviors, and then tell somebody that you're going to do this. All right? And this is totally your choice whether you do this or not. You can walk out of here and not tell anybody that you did this, or you can walk out and tell somebody that you're going to take on one of these behaviors. And both of those options are going to cost you the exact same amount of money. Nothing. That's free. You're not going to be more tired saying one versus the other. But one of those choices is going to have a significant impact on your job search. All right, so I would strongly recommend you choose to tell somebody that you're going to take on one of these behaviors. Fair? Okay, so I know we've got a couple of people in project manager, project coordinator type of roles, so you'll follow me here. A lot of times when you start a project, you're going to work with the end in mind and kind of work your way backwards to see what you have to do to get there. And I take very much the same tactical, strategic approach here. So our goal is to accept a job offer, right? So what do we need to have in order to accept a job offer?
Interviews.
You need interviews, but what do you need to accept a job offer? You need a job offer, right? So first thing, we need to make sure we're getting to the job offer stage. So to get to the job offer, you need interviews. So probably a second interview before you get that job offer. So we've got to get to a second interview. To get to the second interview, you've got to have a first interview, right? What do we need before the first face-to-face interview? Phone screen, yep, the phone screen. They're going to have, most of the time they're doing phone interviews now. Before you get the phone interview, what do you need to get? You need to apply, yes, but, and I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people kind of skip a step in here and you don't give a lot of thought to this piece of it, or maybe just not enough attention is drawn to this. You need that initial interest call, right, where they call you just to kind of feel you out and see, you know, how you communicate and little bits and pieces about you, and then set up the phone interview. And then prior to that, in order for that initial interest call to happen, they have to see your information. Right? Does that make sense? Everybody agree with this timeline of things that have to happen? Okay, and if I'm in anybody's way here, I'll dance. So, and if you want these slides, by the way, I'll have the link at the bottom of every page. Just speedupmyjobsearch.com/behavior, and I've got the slides there that you can have sent to you. So the first one is, how do we help them to see your information? Well, first, you want to optimize your information to help them to see you, if that makes sense. So, for example, on LinkedIn, you want to make your LinkedIn profile more searchable, if that makes sense. So it comes up more often in searches so employers can find you. How do we do that? Well, your title, like right under your name, you've got your name there, and then you've got a title, right? You can put just what you do, Java developer, for example, in what you do, and leave it just as that, or you've got 120 characters there, fill those in, right? So if you're, I don't know, not everybody's technology here if you don't know what a Java developer is, but this is probably true for a lot of different industries. So if I'm looking for a Java developer, I would do a search as an employer or recruiter for Java developers, right? But a lot of companies will also call those people web developers. Some companies will call them software engineers. Some companies will call them programmer analysts. Some companies will call them something else. There's a lot of synonyms for Java developer. So if you only put Java developer in your title, and I, as my company calls it, a web developer, and I'm searching for a web developer, you're not coming up in my search. Right? So you want to use that entire title to optimize what are all the synonyms for my title so that more employers can find you. Same thing with your summary. You want to put as much information as you possibly can in your summary, make it keyword rich, but the very first thing in your summary, and got this idea from Dennis Curtin, I'm sure you've seen a couple of his presentations as well, put your email address first on its own line by itself, and then space down. And the reason you want to do that is because if you've ever looked at your LinkedIn profile on a phone, you see your name, you see your title, you see your school, and you see the first line of your summary, and that's it. So if they see you come up in a search, how are they going to contact you? You've got to give them an option to do that. So you want to make sure that you add that in there for them. Your work experience, I know there's varying opinions on how to do this, but whether you put a lot of information and then make them call you to ask, or put all your information in there. Again, you want to think of LinkedIn as your own personal website, right? This is an advertisement about you, and you have complete control of what you put on there. And the goal of your LinkedIn profile is to help employers find you, right? So they're going to do a search for, if I need a Java developer, I probably need a Java developer who also has some other aspect of Java, like AngularJS or Java Swing or e-commerce platforms, or something, widget making. Doesn't matter what it is. But that stuff needs to be on your profile so that when we do a search, you're going to come up in the search. Whereas if you leave that off and hope that I call and ask you about it, I got 50 other people that came up in my search that did have it on their resume or on their LinkedIn profile, so I'm calling them first. Okay, does that make sense? The other piece of LinkedIn is having connections. And I know there's a lot of different schools of thought on this, and I'll be happy to go through that debate afterwards with whoever wants to do that with me. But I am definitely a firm believer in connecting with as many people as you possibly can. LinkedIn is a research tool. It is not something that you use to help you build your personal relationships with people. It's a LinkedIn, it's a research tool. Okay, so the more people you're connected to, the more access you have to people and profiles. And you'll see why that's important as we continue to go through here. But if you're only connected to your bestest friends, who you know personally, when you do a search for a hiring manager, specific company, your likelihood of being connected to somebody who has that connection to that person is significantly reduced. Then on top of that, there is an applicant tracking system out there called LinkedIn Recruiter. If you're familiar with this, it costs like $7,000 to $8,000 per seat. So this is no joke. These companies this is their source, and they can search all of the profiles that are on LinkedIn at one time. So that's obviously going to come up with a ton of people at one given time, right? So the way that LinkedIn Recruiter by default culls those down or reduces that number is it only shows people who have at least 500 connections. So if you don't have 500 connections, you are invisible to those recruiters who use LinkedIn Recruiter, the applicant tracking system. So you want to build those connections up quickly. A very quick and easy way to do this, and I didn't put on my slide, I'm kind of running off script here. But if you want to build your connections very, very quickly, put in that search box in quotations, I never IDK. All right, so put quote, I never IDK. IDK stands for I don't know you. All right, if you try to send an invitation to somebody who doesn't know you, they can click a button that says, hey, I don't know this person. That hurts your profile, right? And if you have enough of those, LinkedIn's going to freeze your account. So you don't want to do that. But if you search for people who say on their profile, I never IDK, they're telling you, I'm not going to click the I don't know button. Send me an invite, I will accept it. You don't have to personalize it, just click connect. Right? Now, personally, I connect with people who are just US-based because that's most relevant to my searches, because my searches are mostly in Chicago area. But you can build your connections very, very quickly to over 500 in a weekend or a week, sending 50 or 100 in a day. Okay, so that will help you. So if you look for advice, I'm not clicking my buttons here. I got one ahead of myself. So the other piece is endorsements and recommendations. So as you connect with people, endorse them. Recommend the people that you can recommend. The reason you want to do this is because then this puts your name and your title and your picture on their website. All right, if you want your website to be found more, you want links to your website on lots of other websites, right? So if you're now putting positive comments about other people on their profiles, more people are going to stumble onto your profile, right? And just the basic concept of, rule of life, of, the more you say about other people, or whatever you say about other people says more about you than it says about those other people, right? It makes a statement about you complimenting somebody else. What better advertisement about you can you have than getting on other people's profiles and complimenting them, right? So that will help you to get more people coming to your profile. Now, if you do a search on YouTube for LinkedIn profile advice, I would caution you a little bit. Right now, the #1 highest ranked video for LinkedIn profile advice, she offers 6 tips. 3 of those 6 tips will actually harm your job search if you do them. So I created a video called How to Spot Bad Job Search Advice. Go to my YouTube channel. It will show you how to pick that stuff out. I'm not going to call that person out here. I'm putting this on video, so this will be on my YouTube channel as well. But it'll show you how to be able to pick out whether it's something you should follow or not. Okay, so I would recommend you do check that out. My YouTube channel is youtube.com/speedupmyjobsearch. Okay? So your resume. If you can make your resume a little bit easier to find. Where do you post your resume? Do you guys post your resume online any place or on places? Career Builder. Does anybody post it with like your university alumni center? A few people. That's a good place to put it. Anywhere else that you put it where people can find it? Like a website?
I don't know since I'm back new at this, but Indeed.
Yep. No, that's a great place to put it.
Good spot.
Yep, it's a great spot. Some people will just put a PDF on their own personal website or on somebody else's website. You want to make that resume easier to find for recruiters. Okay, I'm going to walk you through something that you don't have to write this down. It's going to get a little technical here, but I'll explain why I'm doing it so that you understand what you need to do to your resume. Okay, so you don't need to write all this stuff down. So I've been giving presentations to recruiters and recruiting firms for a very long time. I remember my first presentation on this subject of advanced Google search strings was in 2003. So this has been going on for a very long time, and at the time this was all very cutting edge. But recruiters are doing this literally every single day. Hundreds and thousands of recruiters are running these exact searches every single day because they're posting the jobs, yes, so that people can apply to the jobs, but they're not sitting around waiting for people to apply. They're actively searching for people on LinkedIn and all these different places. So if I want to find, for example, a SQL Server DBA, what I would do is, I know it's probably hard to see from the back, but I'm going to put a little tilde in the word resume, which means I'm looking for any page that has the word resume in the title, right? And I'm going to put in quotes SQL Server because I'm looking for a document that has SQL and server next to each other on that page. So that's why I put them in quotes. So I don't want any results unless somewhere on the page it says SQL and then server in that order. Then after that, I'm going to put in parentheses Illinois and then that little pipe, which means or IL. So whether they've written Illinois or they put IL on their resume, either one is fine. And then I'm going to put in parentheses a little dash and the word jobs, a little dash in the word apply, submit, sample, example, benefits. The reason I'm doing that is because those are words I don't want to come up in my results. All right, so when I just run a search for SQL Server in Illinois, I'm going to come up with about 25 pages of job postings. I don't want job postings. I want resumes. I'm looking for resumes. So these are words. I put a little minus sign. Don't show me this with jobs. Don't show me this with apply, submit, sample, example, benefits. If any of those words are on your resume, you're not coming up in my search. Does that make sense? So go through your resume and make sure that those words are not on your resume. All right, and again, I've got these slides so you can actually see this at speedupmyjobsearch.com/behavior. Okay? Everybody with me? Too technical?
Is there a colon between file type and PDF and file type doc?
File type, yes. So I'm doing a file type search, :PDF, or file type doc. It could be docx as well. We add to it now, or other file types. So how else can we help them to see our information? Well, what if we target them, right? Instead of waiting for them to come to us, so we optimize our stuff to help them find us, but I'm not going to sit around and wait like the recruiters aren't sitting around and wait. Let's target them. So how about doing this? Go to LinkedIn, and you're going to do a people search. You're going to do a people search. Looking for people, not jobs. Looking for people who do what you do in your area. You're a SQL Server developer, DBA, look for SQL Server developers or DBAs in your zip code. All right, and then you're going to open up their profiles and to see which companies hired them to be a SQL Server DBA or developer or project coordinator or whatever it is you do. That's a great list of companies who hire people who do what you do in your area. All right? That's a target list. Now you can go back to LinkedIn and you can do a search for people who currently work there to start reaching out to them. Does that make sense? Everybody's with me?
There's only like one type of that person at that company, like one HR director.
Maybe they need another one. Right? So do an Indeed search, see what they're looking for, or just reach out to them. Right? So instead of just going to Indeed and applying, why don't we try networking first, as we were just talking about. This is like 95 to 100% of the way you're going to get into some of these jobs is by networking. Okay, well, how do we do that with people that we don't know? So one of the most popular way to land a job is obviously through networking. But the second most popular way to land a job, if you know this or not, is employee referral programs. Everybody familiar with an employee referral program? Not everybody. So basically the company will write a check to their own people. They'll say, if you find somebody and refer them to us and we hire that person, we'll pay you $5,000 or a gift card to the movies or anywhere in between. And I've seen them as high as $7,000 and as low as a $10 gift card. But it's the second most popular way to land a job. So that being said, that means there's a ton of companies that have them, all right? And it seems to work. So I'm going to give you 2 emails here that you can send people through LinkedIn. Again, it gets very texty here, so I encourage you to get the slides. You're going to look for somebody who works in the department that you want to get into. All right, and you're going to send them these 2 emails. This first one, and again, through emails or LinkedIn messages, says, "Hi, Joe. I was about to apply to a position within your company, but before I did, I was hoping to find out more about the company and the culture there. Since you're currently working there, I was wondering if you could tell me, share some thoughts on what you think of the place. I appreciate any insight that you can provide." Now, does that seem overly spammy, or I need an informational interview with you, or please help me get a job kind of thing? It's just very, hey, can you help me out a little bit? Your percentage chance of getting a response to that's pretty good, right? Now, assuming they check their LinkedIn messages, which not everybody does. But if they're checking their messages, they're probably going to respond and give you some information about the company. So when they do, now you're going to thank them, ask them, and offer them. Say, "Hey, thanks, Joe. I really appreciate you getting back to me based on your feedback. I will go ahead with my application for the project coordinator position, whatever the position is. Do you know who I should talk to about applying for that role other than just sending my resume through the online application process?" If they respond to that, you are light years ahead of everybody else that's just applying online. But we're not done. Actually, does your company offer any sort of an employee referral bonus? If you take a quick glance at my profile and you think it makes sense for me to apply, I'll go ahead and send you my resume directly. You can present it to the right person and maybe earn that bonus if I'm hired. Now you've got an internal employee lobbying on your behalf to help you get that job, selfishly so they can get that bonus, but what does that matter to you? And you can get that job so much faster. If you did that to all your target companies, instead of clicking the apply button, do you think you'd land faster than somebody who's not doing this? Yes, for sure.
Do you feel that employees are still, or they used to be, really cautious about giving out somebody else's information because their reputation's on the line?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. For sure. But here you've got somebody who's reached out to you. In this case, absolutely. But in some cases, they're, sometimes it's going to work, sometimes it's not. But yeah, you've got to make sure that they look at your profile, you've got a good profile put together, that it looks like you could be somebody worth recommending, that they match the job. But based on that, these are people that are non-HR people that haven't been trained on how to screen resumes. They're going to look at the job and say, ooh, this person's an executive assistant for the last 10 years. We need an executive assistant. Huh. Yeah, I'll put your information forward, and you've got a good shot at it. So the key is consistency of trying. Not everybody's going to reply. And I've had people say, well, I tried that once and it just didn't work. Okay, well, I asked out a couple girls in high school and they said, no, I didn't give up on women, It's just one of those things. Kind of thing.
100 million people on LinkedIn now, so try somebody else.
Yeah, we've broke 5, wow. Yeah, so lots and lots of options. Yes?
Any way to find out or target companies that have the employee referral program?
I wouldn't worry about it. Because it's the second most popular way of finding a job, a huge majority of them have them. They might just say, we don't have that here. But you know what? I'd be glad to help you anyway. It wouldn't hurt to ask.
It may also not be published.
Yeah, most likely wouldn't be published. Yeah. So the initial interest call. This is a piece that I think is overlooked way too much of the time. It's that first call where they just call to say, hey, I saw your information on LinkedIn, or hey, you applied to this position. I wanted to reach out to you and talk to you briefly. All right? Purpose of this call is to arrange a phone interview. The purpose of this call from your perspective is to arrange a phone interview. All right? So what are they looking for? What are they listening for? They want to hear 4 things. They want to know your communication skills. They want to know your interest in the position. They want to know your personality, in which they can feel a little bit in talking to you. Oh, by the way, and also your skill set to make sure that what you say you have, that you actually have. That's basically what they're looking for. How many people in here have prepared for this call? Okay, a few people, great. I would say easily half, probably more than half if I actually tracked it more closely, of the people that I call on a daily basis, and I call a lot of people every day, will answer the phone and say, who is this? What job is this again? I'm sorry. I'm sending my resume out to so many different places. It's hard to remember, where it's. Okay. To the employer, I'll give you kind of an off-base analogy here to that. That's outside the realm here. But hypothetically, let's say you went out someplace to meet somebody, and somebody gave you their number. And then you were all excited about, I got the person's number. Fantastic. You can call them the next day. And they say, I'm sorry. Can you describe yourself a little bit? It's just, I gave my number to so many people last night. I don't remember who you are. All right, that's the feeling that you're giving the employers of, I don't care who I work for, I just need a job. That's not going to create interest in you. Versus if you answer that phone and say, drive staff? This must be about that Oracle DBA position. I was hoping you would call. I really thought I was a good fit for that. Totally different perception of where you're going to go from there. Now, is that going to make the difference in you getting hired or not getting hired? Probably not. But it changes the perception from the first minute they talk to you. Your likelihood of getting an interview is significantly higher if you're prepared for it. So how do we prepare for that call? And I'd love your ideas on this. How would you know what jobs you've applied to if you are applying to tons of jobs? How are you going to know who that is when you answer the phone? Is anybody doing that? Yeah.
Well, one of the things I usually do when I apply for positions or even send my resume out, I have like a set of notes saying date and time, position, and a number, so that way if the number did come up,
Yeah.
I would at least recognize it from that standpoint.
Okay.
I've done that in the past and have like a small notes.
Okay.
Somewhat of a
Great.
spreadsheet.
And you carry it with you?
It's in my phone at least.
Okay.
But no,
So-
I'll be at least in front of my computer
Okay.
or something. And I at least have an idea.
Okay. Okay. My concern is, I'm just thinking as you're saying that, is what if they call you on your phone, it's in your cell phone, and you're talking on your cell phone? How do you
No, I
look
can
it
be
up?
at home in front of my computer, though.
Oh, as you're making calls, what if they called you?
Right.
Right?
But also, I write down
Okay, and that's fantastic. I would say have it with you. It seems kind of silly to carry around this list of names, but I think it would help you so you remember where in which company it is.
Yeah, but I mean, if I have an idea when they're going to call me back or
Right.
somewhat of a intuition thing,
Okay.
because it's done day by day,
Okay.
I know I'll be able to recognize them.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's good. So when you answer the phone, you know who they are. That's huge.
I don't know if this is right or wrong, but I get so many calls or positions in Nevada or California. What else they do is let it go to voicemail. Then if it goes to voicemail, they'll tell me who it is. And
Right.
again, I have a log of everyone I've called, addresses,
Right.
company names, title, job description. I keep all that, tracking all that stuff. So when I call them back, I have all that in front of me and I'm ready.
Okay.
Do
I think-
recruiters typically leave a voicemail, or will some of them just say, oh, you didn't pick it up again?
You know what, Matt? I was going to actually ask you guys that because I leave a message every time, for sure. They can't call me back if I don't leave a message. So what's your experience? Do people call and not leave messages?
Messages.
I figure they're sales calls or something.
Right.
So I don't, it's like if you
Okay.
can't leave me a message, then it's
That's
over
my
either
approach.
or.
Right.
Okay. Okay. So, and how often do you actually check your voicemail? Are there people in here who don't check their voicemail? You check it or you don't check it? Okay. Is there anybody who does not? Because I'm finding a lot of people, we're kind of changing the tide here of people not checking their voicemail at all. I'm getting a lot of full voicemail boxes as I call people, so just curious.
First two before you even
Okay.
check on the message.
Okay.
There's so many spammers.
Right.
Just so many.
Yep.
And they're using ISPs, so they're calling local. Yesterday
Yep.
was my birthday. I got a phone call yesterday from a company that was a local number, 708 something.
Yeah.
And they were asking me if I'd like to save money on my burial. I was so
Happy
ready to
birthday.
say,
Wow.
yes, it's my birthday. I'm not dying today.
Nice.
And then I thought to myself, I'm baffled. I said, you know what? I own a funeral home, and I'm already taken care of.
Wow, nice. Okay. All right. Well, happy birthday, by the way.
Google, you know, you can Google numbers a lot of times when you're on your phone.
Yep.
And you just Google it right away to see if
Yep.
it's listed in the scammers.
Yep. So, but in this room, everybody checks voicemail. Okay, so just kind of taking that and twisting the end user here a little bit to help resonate this point. You send a lot of resumes out, they don't always open them. You send some emails out, they don't always get them. You send messages through LinkedIn, they don't get there. The only thing that has a 100% open rate is voicemail. Making calls can get you there a lot faster. Just food for thought. So that would be a, yes.
So if you were to call, if somebody calls and leaves you a message and like all of a sudden you call right back within the next 5 minutes, is that a good thing then? Because they may think that you're screening your calls.
I always take that as a really good thing on my end. Maybe other people take it differently. It's kind of subjective. But if I leave somebody a message and they call me right back, hey, sorry, I couldn't get to the phone in time, you know, but they know who you are. They obviously listened to the message and called you back about it. I was hoping you would call because of.
And you could be on another call.
Exactly. Yep. Absolutely. Right. So there's not so much offense to that. Yeah. So.
I just wonder if I check my phone enough. I'm busy like Ubering, so
Right.
or lifting, and so I used to check up once in the morning, like late morning, and then once in the late afternoon.
Yeah.
Is that not
Great.
enough?
No, that's fine. That's fine. Because you're going to get back to them that day or the next day, right? So, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when I call candidates, I'm not expecting them to be just sitting there staring at their phone, waiting for Paul Cameron to call. You know, well, that would be nice, but not necessarily. Yes.
Really just with a lot of, I have T-Mobile, so if you have T-Mobile, now you can get your voicemail and it types it out for you.
Mhm.
Your smartphones. You
Yeah.
can call your provider and ask them to text.
Yeah.
So then you can literally just read the voicemail.
Right. Umail is another one that does that for you as well. And personalizes, which is really cool, by the way. It'll, you know, you call and say, hi, Jennifer. Paul's not available. It's kind of creepy, but whatever. But communication skills, you want to make sure you're speaking clearly. You know, if English is not your first language, make sure you're speaking clearly to them and you're at a place where it's a quiet place where you can talk. You're not, you know, in rush hour traffic, standing under the L train or, you know, whatever. And then being ready to talk about how your skills match that job. But preparing for that call will make a huge difference in how you're perceived through the job search. So the people who, when I call them and they assume that I'm a telemarketer calling them and they answer the phone that way, and then hey, I'm calling about your resume, and they go from, yeah, oh, hey, thanks for calling. Like, okay, there's, you know, again, it's not going to affect whether they get hired or not, but it changes the perception, right? Your goal is to make a positive perception. So on this note, again, back to the YouTube channel, I've got a video on this call that's called, Is This Job Search Killer Affecting Your Job Search? I would recommend you check that out. So the phone interview. So the purpose of the phone interview is to get a face-to-face interview from your perspective, right? So how do we make that happen? So first off, you want to do your research on the company. Make sure you know everything you need to know, and I keep pointing to videos here, but that way I don't add to the presentation length here because you can check these out. 7 fundamental key pieces of information that you need to know about every company. You know, from their product line to how many locations they're in and whether they're publicly held or privately held, that kind of thing. That can definitely help you throughout the interview. Because it is a phone interview, they cannot see you, right? So this is kind of like an open book test opportunity. If you have all your notes spread out in front of you, it's easier to recall that stuff. Now, I will tell you, they can hear you typing into Google. All right? I've had dozens upon dozens of phone interviews where the client calls me afterwards. Well, I could hear him typing the questions into Google and giving them the exact responses. So they hear that. So don't let them hear you typing. Have the stuff printed out in front of you so you can reference it. Yes?
I had a company FaceTime me.
Cool.
And I decided to do it in an office setting because I have a doggie at home.
Okay, good.
And I didn't know whether my doggie be
Right.
barking at the mail lady or
Yeah.
whatever. So
Yep, absolutely. And yeah, when you're on camera, be very aware of what's around you. You know, if you're sitting in front of a big poster of, Hillary or Donald, that's going to maybe upset some people, and be just aware of everything. The other thing a lot of people don't think about for the FaceTime interviews and video interviews, make sure your hands are in view if possible. Just basic human psychology. You will naturally trust people when you can see their hands, and you will naturally distrust people if they're hidden, right? It's where the handshake comes from, the wave, the salute. It's all to show that you have an empty hand. So just basic human psychology. So even if you can't get the camera on your hands on your desk, make sure you gesture once or twice so they can see you have open hands. It's kind of a silly minor thing, but it just affects the human psychology of the call. You want to make sure you've got good connection, quiet space again. Again, this may sound kind of silly, but standing up and smiling actually affects the tonality of your vocal cords. They can hear that, and you sound like a more friendly person. And if you're a more friendly person, it's going to be easier for them to connect with you. Okay? And then basically at the end of this, your goal is to get the face-to-face interview, so why not come right out and directly and ask for it? All right, so the way I recommend people to, all the candidates I'm sending on interviews, to close their interviews, they go through the question-answer period at the end, and you have any other questions for me, and at the end to say, given everything that we've talked about here, I'm curious to get your thoughts. Does it sound like I'd be a fit for the position? I'm using the word sound because you're on the phone, and this is a very direct question. It's a very yes or no type of question. I'll explain why I'm doing this in a minute. What I'm not recommending you say is, are there any concerns about my background? Because if you ask them, are there any concerns about my background, they're going to say, no, you did fine. Because of the question you're asking. It's just like in sales. If I'm constantly getting one prospect after the next that keeps saying, send me your information, send me your information, well, that means I'm spilling out too much information on the phone, and they just want to read it. Right? So I know that my pitch needs to change based on the objection that I'm giving them. Right? Same thing here. Are there any concerns about my background? You might as well say, will you please stomp all over my feelings? No, I'm not going to do that, right? Whereas if you give them a legitimate chance to say yes or no, now this is going to set you up to get where you want to go. Kind of like, in a chess match. I don't know if you play chess or not. A lot of times in chess, you will make a move so that your opponent has to react in a certain way so that then you can make the real move that you want to make. That's what this question does for you. So then they come back and they say, yes, you're a fit. Great. What's the next step? Because I'm really interested in this position. If it's possible, I'd love to come in and speak with you in person about it. And then wait to see what they say. If they say maybe, which most employers will give some version of a maybe, like I got to talk to other employers or other candidates, I've got to talk to the team about it, or we're going to flip a coin later. Anything non-committal, same answer. Great. What's the next step? Because I'm very interested in this position. If it's possible, I'd love to come in and speak with you in person about it. Are there any concerns about my background? Now when you ask that question, you're going to get a legitimate answer. All right? By asking this question, you're also giving them a chance to say no. Right? No, you are not a fit at all. I can't believe I just wasted all this time talking to you. Right? Which hopefully they wouldn't say it that way. But at that point, you've got nothing to lose. Right? You're not going to get the job. You're probably never going to talk to this person again for the rest of your life. You want to find out, I'm curious what makes you feel that way. Because what if they say, well, the thing is, for this particular position, we need somebody who's also got some telecom experience. And so I'm sorry, this is, wait. I've got lots of telecom experience. I didn't know that was important. Right? If you have a skill that they don't know you have, it didn't come up in the interview and they didn't see it on your resume, now you can talk about it while you're still on the phone with them, rather than trying to overcome that through a thank you note afterwards, after they just hung up the phone and decided you're not the right person. Right? Getting back to this, being a sales call, which it really is, the biggest killer of salespeople is you can't overcome an objection you don't get. This is your chance to get the objection from them while you're on the phone. Okay? So that can help you. So then, the first interview. And the purpose of the first interview is to get the second interview. Right? So you're going to go into each one of these with an objective, with a guide in mind of what I'm trying to get to. So you want to do more research than you did the first time. A little extra piece of research that you can do is going through LinkedIn and look for everybody that you can find who has worked for that company and open up their profiles to see what they say about the company. Right? You might get a little extra tidbit of information about what they're doing there. The other thing that I would do is go through their careers section to see what they're currently trying to hire, because that gives you information about what's going on at the company, right? If they're trying to hire recruiters, which is another good way to find target companies, by the way. If you find a company that's trying to hire somebody who can help them hire people, they got a lot of hiring needs over there. So if they're hiring recruiters, there's a big growth mode going on. If they're hiring software developers, they're probably in the middle of some sort of a development project. If they're hiring QAs, those are the people you bring in at the end of a project, so they're probably wrapping up a project. You can learn a lot about what's going on at the company based on the people that they're hiring, if that makes sense. So be ready for a lot of the same questions that you got on the phone. The reason they're going to do that is to make sure that you're still the same person that they talk to on the phone. Not physically. Sometimes that does happen where they have somebody else do the phone interview for them, which we've seen a bunch of times. But sometimes maybe you were just reading all your notes and you actually don't know this stuff, and you walk in and you can't answer any of the questions. That's an issue. So they may ask you some of the same questions. I wouldn't go in saying, oh, well, like I told you on the phone, right? You want to give them the respect of, oh, yeah, so, we had that conversation a little bit on the phone, and I wanted to expand on that because, and you can give them more information there. And you want to make sure that you're staying positive at all costs, right? So when they ask you why you left your last employer, that needs to be a positive thing. And if I can ask, can anybody tell me why you left your last employer?
Sure.
Okay.
And you have a business decision that they downsized.
Okay, so you want an interview, that's what you would say. Okay, great. And it's not negative at all. It's truthful. Rule number one of interviewing, in my opinion, is to be honest. Anyone else? Yes. They moved to Gary, Indiana. Okay. I wouldn't either. All right. Okay. Great. And yes.
I was the manager of the territory, and I did more foods demonstrations than anyone else.
Okay.
And my boss was also in my territory.
Okay.
So they decided to redo the territory.
Okay.
My boss got my position.
Okay. Okay. Okay, but it sure does, yeah.
Does
It sounds bitter a little bit. Yeah, I don't mean to tell you
I
out,
appreciate that.
but it's just purely, I'm coming from a place trying to help. You say, I did more than anybody, and then they gave it to somebody else. Kind of a little sour grapes of, and here's, I'll circle back to this in just a minute, with both of these answers. Not negative at all, but where I'm going with this is, what if you started those exact same answers out with, it's a great company that I work for. I love the people that I work with. I'm just, unfortunately, they had a business decision. They downsized the company, and I got caught in a layoff.
I normally do, because
Okay.
I still love the company, and I actually had a conversation, former colleague wants me to come work for them.
Great.
Build out.
Okay,
jobs.
and I would even finish with
Another
that.
option.
Yeah,
But
that's good.
Yeah, I still love the company, and I would recommend it to anybody.
Okay,
That response
which is
actually
great.
my cover letter.
What?
I really enjoy working with a company, but
Great. They relook, yeah, but make that in your answer in the interview. And I know that doesn't sound like it's a big deal. They're not going to say, wow, that's amazing. You just complimented that company. Here's an offer, you're hired. Right? They're not going to do that. You're just giving them one more little reason to like you, right? Because what you say about other people says more about you than it says about those other people, right? So you're when you hang up the phone, that's what affects the little conversation they have with themselves afterwards, where they say, boy, I don't know what it was about that person. I just liked him. And it's because you very intentionally dropped all these positive character references about yourself throughout the interview by complimenting the other companies. So in this case, Susan, what I would recommend with that it was a great organization. I got to really excel. I was the top salesperson for that territory. Just they did a realignment, and unfortunately my position went to my boss at that time, which she's a great person as well, and I know that she'll do well, but it gives me an opportunity to look at a position here. All right, so positive about that person and compliment her. Right.
Spin. Okay. Putting a positive spin.
Okay. Yes. So learned an interesting tip from, I did a panel interview thing down at it was the Washington Library downtown, where they invited all these corporate recruiters from different companies to talk about the job search process. And one of them was the lead recruiter for Walmart stores. And she made a really interesting point where she said, the only story I'm going to know about your culture in that prior workplace is what you tell me, right? So why would you tell me that this person didn't get along with that person, or I wasn't getting along with this person, or, For all I know, you were the most popular person in the whole company. You present what happened at that company. You can make it positive or you can make it negative. And the interview is going to take a turn depending on what you choose. So then you get to, one more piece I'm going to just throw in here real quick. And I've got this on that page, that speedupmyjobsearch.com/behavior. This is a tool that I created a little while ago that can help you in your interview process. So employers love people who, and correct me if you disagree with any of these points here, have done their research prior to the interview, right? They love people who are prepared for the meeting, who have questions planned for them, right? They love people who are organized, who take notes throughout the interview, and that are interested in them, okay? So these are all positive traits about a candidate. So I created this tool, again, it's behavior-based here. If you print this out and bring it with you to your interview, it will help you. So what this is, it's my interview influencer doc. The top half of the screen there, that is a screenshot of the website of the company. All right? Now, and I've got instructions on how to do this, specifically on there if you're not familiar with how to do that. But the purpose of this is not to pull it out and wave it in front of them. Look, I printed off your website. It's very simply, would you mind if I took some notes? And you bring it out and you pull it out on your lap to take some notes. As the person who works at that company, I'm going to recognize my website upside down and backwards without even thinking about it. I will realize you took the time to print out a screenshot of my website. So you obviously looked at it, right? So you're planned and prepared. The bottom, it says planned questions and notes, and you've got lines there where you can take some notes and have questions written out. So you're prepared and you have planned questions for them. Now at the very bottom here, you can't read this because this is way too small, but I've got 5 checkboxes across the bottom, and these are very, very generic items that I've got across the bottom. Like it's a good culture there, it's a good facility, it's a good location, it's good team to work in. They've got an X factor, good commute, things across the bottom that you could say about any company. All right, so now you get to the end of the interview. You have any other questions for me, or about to wrap up, anything further you want to talk about? And you can look to the employer and then glance at your sheet and say, as I'm looking for my next position, I've been trying to be selective, and I've got 5 things that are really important to me that I find in my next employer, and I have checked all 5 of my boxes here. So I'm hoping that you think this went as well as I did. I'd really love to work for you. It's like it's providing evidentiary proof that you're interested in the role, and it will necessarily get them interested in you. All right, so that's on that page. You just click and print it off, use it. That will help you, okay? So the second interview. The purpose of your second interview is to get the job offer. Right? So what happens at the second interview? Number one, that I see a lot is people walk in asking where their desk is. I would not recommend that. That never goes over well. That does happen a lot. Like, okay, great. Obviously, they're bringing me for a second interview, so I've got the job. All right, where am I going to be sitting, and do I work with this? And then they start asking for, are you going to provide training for me, and what kind of this? And it's very presumptive. You want to go in there with the understanding you need to impress now more than you did in the last one to make sure you get that position. Normally, these second interviews are done with the executives, right? The senior level managers who want to meet, or the president of the company who wants to just meet the person. Everybody else has signed off on you or you wouldn't be back, right? They want to meet you. And usually the executives are looking for culture fits. They're looking for somebody who shows passion for the work and knowledge and interest in the company. So go in there with those objectives to make sure you're showing those things during that second interview, and you're going to have a high likelihood of getting that job offer. So you get to the job offer. I'm going to look at how long I've been going here, about an hour, Jim, so I'll try to wrap it up. But job offers, if you have any skeletons in your closet, these should have been out by now, all right, before you get to the job offer stage. Like, for example, if you know for a fact your college is not going to release your records because you still haven't paid your parking tickets, right? From back when. I just had this happen. Actually, I've got a video called Handling Skeletons in Your Closet. You'll notice on there I talk about that because that day I had that happen. I lost an offer because the guy said, well, they won't release my records that I actually have a degree because I had never paid my parking tickets. Okay, really? But, all right, but that should have been said early on in the process, because then we can get around that, if you don't have a degree, which I will just throw out publicly. To say you have a degree when you don't have one is not okay. And I don't know who is saying that that is okay, but I understand there are some job clubs in the area that are saying, just tell them you have a degree until you get there. And then when there's enough interest, they'll overlook it. That is not okay. Last year I lost 15 deals to people saying they had degrees that didn't actually have them. So it's a thing now. So if that's on your resume, please, please, please don't do that, because they're going to do a background check. You're going to lose the offer. But they should know, all these, anything that could come up, background check stuff, drug test stuff, whatever. It should be out in the open before you get to this point to help them make the offer to you. Okay? You want to know your numbers before they make the offer, so that if they make the offer too low, you can immediately start talking with them as they're making the offer, versus I got to come back to you and you're in this 4-day-long negotiation via email versus just having a conversation, right? Will help you significantly. If they hit your number, accept it, right? There's no law that says you have to negotiate every single time. If you accept an offer quickly, what that's going to do is get them excited about you and want to do more for you as you get started, right? So, they're asking you to marry them. You can leap into their arms and say yes, or you can say, yeah, let me get back to you in a few days. I'll let you know. Kind of a thing. It's the feeling that the employers get, and then they sit around going, well, hopefully we have it filled. Well, should we still talk to that other guy? She hasn't accepted yet. So you can influence what's going to happen from there by how quickly you answer. If they give you paperwork, to fill that stuff out quickly for them so they can get things started. And that will help them. Just the faster you move, the more they're going to show interest in you as you get started and roll out the red carpet for you as you get started. So if you were deliberate in your job search about optimizing your information, preparing for those initial interview calls, the initial interest calls, preparing for your first 3 interviews, the phone first and second, and preparing for job offers, would you land a job faster than someone who's not doing this stuff?
Sure.
Absolutely, yes. So spending time learning the job of getting a job will help you significantly. There's a couple of great books out there that I highly recommend. Anything by Martin Yates. I love that guy, and he's a machine. He puts out 3 books a year somehow. I don't know how he does this. All those Knock 'em Dead books, if you've seen them, they're really, really good. The ones as of these last couple of years go a little bit long. He's got like 3 pages on how to shake hands, but the stuff, he's got lots of really great tactics in there. So I definitely would recommend his stuff. There's a book by Harvey Mackay, normally known as the business tycoon guy, but he's got a book called Using Your Head to Get Your Foot in the Door. Really good book on job search. Don't totally agree with what he says about headhunters in there, but other than that, it's a really good book. My favorite book, though, is a book by Rick Pitino. He's a basketball coach who wrote a book called Success is a Choice. And this has nothing to do with job search and everything to do with job search. The premise behind this book is that success is not a bunch of fortunate sets of circumstances, right? It's not a bunch of lucky breaks. You choose to make your profile more searchable in LinkedIn. You choose to prepare for that initial interest call. You choose to prepare for these interviews and job offers. Success is in your control depending on the choices that you make. When you leave here today, you can either walk out of here and tell nobody about this, or you can tell somebody, hey, I'm going to optimize my profile, or I'm going to prepare for that initial interest. You can tell them you're going to commit to one of these behaviors. And that doesn't cost you anything to do, but that choice will drastically improve your job search results. Make sense? Okay. So I do want to just throw in real quick, if I may, my website, speedupmyjobsearch.com. It's like an outplacement resource, but it takes a very aggressive, structured approach to the job search process. If you want lots of little tips and tricks and things, check out my YouTube channel. I've got 90 videos on my YouTube channel at this point. But this is more of a structured outplacement program. And we've been in here for over an hour talking here at this point. And we barely scratched the surface of this. There's so much more you can do to your resumes and social networking and in-person networking, that kind of thing. It's not a free program, full disclosure. It's $50 if you want to join, but it's like investing, $50 for the potential return of thousands of dollars per month for years when you land the job. If that's too much, I do have a lesser program where you just don't have access to asking me questions like the normal option does. It's $19. I do get people who tell me, how do I justify spending $19 when I don't have a job? And I totally get that, but if it were me, I don't know how I could justify spending $19 on something other than something that would help me land a job. So whether it's this or whether it's Martin Yates' book or Harvey McKay's or anything else, some kind of a program, if you guys have programs here, I would definitely recommend investing some time into the job of getting a job. So here's my information. If you send me an invite on LinkedIn, I will accept it and endorse your profile. So please send me an invite. I'm happy to connect with absolutely everybody. And you'll be able to see all of my connections. I'm connected to over 14,000 people on LinkedIn. You'll be able to see all those profiles. So when you do your searches, you'll be able to see those people. So that's it. Thanks so much for your time.
I have a question on LinkedIn. Would you recommend the premium?
The biggest advantage to the premium that I see is being able to see, you get in-mails to people, but you only get like 9, I think. The bigger advantage is you get to see everybody who's looked at your profile. So as people look at your profile, if they're hiring managers, you can then shoot emails out to them. So I don't necessarily see a big justification in the cost unless you're in sales or along those lines. The free account should be enough. So, yes.
How many emails you can send a month if you have the free account?
I think it's only like the in-mail things.
I just, mine ends today. My free ends today, so it's 5.
But okay, but you know what? There's so many programs out there where you can get people's email addresses. I think it's mailtester.com, emailtester.com. I forgot what it is off the top of my head. That'sthem.com is a really great source if you want to find people and get their contact information. Get creepy amounts of information on people. Like, I get their car VIN numbers. It's really incomes and that kind of thing. But you can get their email addresses and phone numbers and things. So that'sthem.com is a great resource. It's free. So just find their email address or find them on Google+. If you're in Google+, add them to a circle, and then you can broadcast a message to the entire circle. And if you only have one person in that circle, you're effectively sending them an email. So there's lots of ways around that in-mail thing. So anything else? Yes.
I have a question. How do you guys make your money?
How do we make our money?
Do you work for clients or?
For recruiting, yeah. So for recruiting, the clients pay us. So with recruiters and headhunters, it's important to understand that our job is to find people for jobs, not jobs for people. So the clients will pay me to go find somebody who has experience with whatever it is. Usually they work for the competitor, which is why we get the name headhunter. But in my line of work, I talk to 800 to 1,000 people a month. And if I have a spectacularly wonderful, best month of my life, I will place 10 people out of 1,000. So what do I do with the other 990 that I talk to this month? That's why I created Speed Up My Job Search.
Your job club and where is that?
Right downtown. It's 120 West Wesley. It's the Freemason building downtown, right in the heart of downtown, if you know where that is. And if you go to my website, drivestaff.com, you'll see a banner, or either one of them, Speed Up My Job Search or Drive Staff. You'll find information on it.
Was it the third Thursday?
The third Thursday, so next Thursday. And Jim will be the featured speaker.
Again?
Wow.
Right? You had
Brutal.
enough of me, right?
All right. Well, thanks again, guys. I really appreciate all the time. Okay, thank you.